together so far in these NA regionals.
Also, Zig, so aggressive in that bottom lane. Him and Pixel love to just get up in their faces. There's almost no better support to do that with than Blitzcrank. They don't necessarily want to deal, especially late game, with those pulls that can just jump in and end team fights for you. So fairly targeted bans by Dignitas and fairly general bans by Team Dynamic, actually.
Team Dynamic finishing up Shen and Alistar. Shen, the ability to split push, and Alistar, he's a scary support, he's a scary jungler. Dignitas doesn't want anything to do with him, and that Gragas ban is definitely aimed at Mr. Paradoxical, and Crumbs grabs Rumble right off the bat.
Zig selected Lux in every game at MLG previously and then never locked it in. If this was an elaborate troll to eventually do it at the Season 2 Regionals, I'd be pretty impressed, but we'll see what he ends up going with. Crumbs played a whole bunch of Rumble over at MLG, very effective for him. They love running him up in that top lane. It's all about him getting ahead early. They want to shut down Zion Spartan with that pick.
Zig is bounced from Lux to Nunu, and there is Corki. Surprise, surprise. Zig has been playing a ton of Corki.
In all 15 games last week at MLG, Zig played Corki 15 times. It's interesting that he's picked it again. Dignitas is okay with that. They say you can play Corki, we'll take something like Ezreal or Graves because they still have the quick dash, they still have the mid-game spell damage. It's really going to be about just matching him up. They get the Sona support to go up against a Nunu jungler or support, and really, these are very similar picks that we saw last week when they actually played 7 games against each other. A lot of Skarner jungle coming out, a lot of Skarner jungle coming out from I Will Dominate.
Not only Skarner jungle, you said before, the holy trinity of AD carries, so to speak, Ezreal, Graves, and Corki. I would not be surprised if Dignitas picks up one of those other two. As you mentioned, Skarner, so strong he can use that slow as well as drag someone to their doom, and Sona also getting a lot of play in those aggressive bottom lanes. So Team Dynamic sitting on Morgana, a smart pick, able to jump in the middle of a fight, use that ultimate, and bind up an enemy team. We saw Reginald putting on a clinic with Morgana yesterday, and there's the lock-in for Nidalee. We saw Zion run a game at MLG Rally on Nidalee.
He had one successful 15-1 game on Nidalee. This is going to be telling Dignitas what Team Dynamic wants to do with that Nidalee pick. When you pick Nidalee, you want to split push all day, and you essentially want to make the game a 4v4, and then Nidalee will 1v1 someone in a bunch of skirmishes. You want to limit the game. So really, that Morgana pick is going to be about forcing initiations once Nidalee collapses down for skirmishes, or once too many people go away to shut down Zig's Nidalee. All about split push, and there's a slightly different pick. We have the Kog'Maw coming out from I'm a Cutie Pie, so he's deviating a little bit from the super common 80 carry picks we saw last week, and that should be extremely interesting.
There's Para sitting on Evelyn. I don't think he's going to go for it, but you never know. There could be some surprises. A lot of teams have been saying they have some tricks up their sleeve. Let's see if Evelyn is going to be one of them. Nope, it's
Unbanned
not.
jungle Olaf here. If Nintendo Dex could actually get it, it's very rare that he gets to play that champion, whether or not they want to go for it, and there it is.
We saw a lot of jungle Olaf from Nintendo when it wasn't banned. We were talking about this match saying if Nintendo gets that Olaf, we are going to see a lot of early aggression, and Nintendo, an incredible counter jungler, he sees his paths and he goes for those spots when he has them.
There'll be so much early pressure and so much riding whether they can get Nidalee a lead in that lane against Crumbs, because we actually saw that lane last week. One game Zion Spartan got ahead, went 4-1, it might have been 4-0 on Nidalee at the start of the game. So all that early pressure. Nintendo Dex is actually somewhat known for doing the early behind the tower ganks at level 3 or 4. Dignitas is most likely going to be ready for that. There's so much history between these two teams recently, an actual rivalry going. You could even hear them trash talking back and forth. Man, those kids, they're not even in college. Their moms come to tournaments. They don't care. Team Dynamic does not matter the age to them. They're just here to play.
They didn't mention that their parents actually have matching jerseys. It's pretty awesome. Nintendo has Nintendo's mom and Nintendo's dad. I'm completely embarrassing him at this point. Sorry.
He can't hear you.
So let's see if the Rugrats, so to speak, will have what it takes against the more experienced Dignitas. For all of you tuning in at home, for all of you in the audience, if you think Team Dynamic is going to score this upset, let me hear it.
And if you guys think Dignitas and Scar is going to take this one home against Team Dynamic, let me hear you say it.
And we are into the game right away. We've got some serious enthusiasm. We have actually a packed house here at PAX Prime. So let's look at this Cutie Pie Kog'Maw. We talked about this in the keys to the game. Cutie Pie had that protect the Cog comp. Looking at this composition, is there going to be enough to protect that Kog'Maw?
They do have a little bit. The main thing that's actually going to protect them is the threat level of Karthus. When Scar gets farmed and dies in the middle of the team or walks in with Defile, that's going to be so much threat. There are enough priority targets on Dignitas that they won't necessarily be able to single out I'm a Cutie Pie without dying to the rest of them.
It looks like Dignitas sitting in the dynamic top red tri-brush. They're looking for a full invade. Dynamic sitting around that mid lane, also going for an invade, although Dignitas staying top lane. They look like they're going to be starting around the goal instead.
They're just being very sneaky up here, hoping to find someone wandering around Wraiths or the red buff. Dignitas making the aggression level 1 here, and it looks like Team Dynamic is searching S5. They might end up walking through this ward. If they do, that'll give Dignitas a pretty big advantage, because so far Dignitas has been completely unspotted.
And Team Dynamic has those Nidalee traps. Dynamic has no idea that Dignitas is there. Dignitas has that ward, so we could see an engage right here. There's the early engage. All the harpoons miss. Scar is trying to poke out with those layways. The axe misses as well. There's the binding onto I Will Dominate. But Dignitas going to back out. Crumb's a little overextended, but he's going to back out in time. Some pokes going down between the two. And Dignitas is going to reset. Skara is slow. There's the flash, but the flash out from Scar. Patoy, though, gets caught. Will this be first blood? Flash out. Patoy, one more tick. He is down. That is first blood for Zion Spartan.
Such a huge start for Team Dynamic. We know when they get an early lead or when they win the first team fight, they can snowball that into a lot of good things. Zion Spartan going back to base, going to bully with that early gold. And that was a big mistake by Team Dignitas, getting caught out by that Dark Binding.
Patoy getting hit by that binding. He might be kicking himself a little bit for that early mistake, but all credit to Nintendo, who landed every single axe in that level 1 exchange. Let's see if Team Dynamic is going to be able to snowball that lead. We said get Zion Spartan going, and what better way than a level 1 Doran's Blade.
Nintendo, that's an absolute assassin with those axes, and now look for him actually to continually gank top on Crumbs. They burned a lot of summer spells in that early engagement. Scar also, I believe, has no flash, so Nintendo really has all the options open to him right now. Picked up the early red buff. He's going to have a lot of action early. He's going to make to make something happen here, Jaws.
Let's take a closer look at that top lane. Zion Spartan has that first blood for the Nidalee Rumble matchup. What are we going to be seeing from Zion?
He's going to be trying to do a lot of harass pre-level 5 before Rumble's Flame Spitter really gets going. And then once he hits level 6, he's going to be shoving up, trying to jump at him with Cougar Form and just try to finish him off and just continually push the top lane. One thing about Nidalee, most champions, when they finish the top lane tower, they leave the lane, they go around, try to make other things happen. Nidalee just keeps pushing. She'll go for the second, she'll go for the third, she'll go for the inhibitor. It's going to be all about Dignitas trying to contain his pressure up top.
Nidalee is quite the escape artist. She gets that speed boost when she's in the brush, and with her Cougar Form, she's able to hop around and get away from even the most difficult positions in the bottom lane. Cutie Pie and Patoy, despite being behind, Patoy giving up that first blood. They're doing the best they can. Patoy, though, getting chunked out by that Zig Corki. Zig on that Corki is still so dangerous. They just keep letting him. I don't normally say ban 80 carries, but maybe in Zig's case, Dignitas should have made an exception.
It's all about the comfort zone on that. When you play the same champion so many games in a row, you just get accustomed to his skill set and know how to harass exactly and precisely with them. On top of that, Kog'Maw lanes have a bit of ramp-up time. He needs to get points into his Bio Arcane Barrage before he can successfully trade with Zig. So Team Dynamic playing very aggressive up here, shoving a lot, and Nintendo Dex coming in behind Crumbs for a gank. He's walking through ward, but this could be successful.
Defensive ward from Crumbs, and there's the Ghost going in, but Crumbs flashes out. Nintendo, though, is not done. He has that red buff, and there are the axes again. They're so low. Flash in from Zion Spartan, and Nintendo takes out from Team Dynamic, off to an incredible start thus far.
So good at handling those axes. It's somewhat of a clunky, difficult usability for people because it has that variable range, and you want to hit someone with it while being able to pick it up. Every time Nintendo threw that axe, it landed, and he picked it up at exactly the right spot. He's so good at Olaf, and you can see why people ban it so far. That's the reason they got First Blood. That's the reason they got the accessible gank in the lane. Nintendo X absolutely dominating this game early on.
and they're trying to put as much pressure as they can. Dominate going in. There's another axe from Nintendo. He is spot on. This is why that Olaf gets banned.
Doesn't seem to miss with that spell, and that is not an easy thing to land. We're going to actually end up walking away a bit here. Zion Spartan going to go back and buy a little more items. Crum has a lot of issues in that lane. That gank, he burned flash and still died, so he's in a lot of trouble.
Looking at Nintendo, he harassed so well. That was the pathing we were talking about. As he went top lane, he threw an axe at Scar and took a pretty decent chunk of health, allowing Para to farm. Looking at this mid lane farm, they're pretty even at this point, but that assist on Para is going to help him out in the long run.
And even that one axe from the earlier gank that Nintendo pulled off is giving him a minion kill advantage on Scar. Not something you typically see against Scar's Karthus. Morgana up 41 to 37 minion kills, so Paradoxical sticking with him right now. And really, there's not a single lane, well, sorry, most lanes aren't doing that well for Dignitas right now.
Looking mid lane, it looks like Nintendo is going to continue to aggress.
Nice
onto,
dodging
but
by
the
Scar.
misbinding by Para. Scar is going to get out of there. He is used to getting camped. People do not like it when he gets going.
That's just something that happens. Scar puts so much energy and time into trying to get every single last hit that he does overextend himself occasionally. Therefore, he's very used to getting a lot of attention and love from the enemy junglers. Also, I will dominate, loving to get that level 6 for Skarner gank, so a lot of early pressure when they pick Skarner just doesn't quite exist, and he does need to just farm up and wait for that moment.
Speaking of pressure, look at this mid lane. Para is not intimidated by Scar at all. He is trying to push him down and take away as many minion kills. The tower is getting a lot of those last hits.
And look at this, we actually have Nintendo decks coming in behind of Crumbs right here. There's a level 6 Zion Spartan against a level 4 Crumbs. They're looking to harass down and tower dive him. Nintendo posturing around. This could very well be a third kill for Team Dynamic when they decide to gank this. I will dominate, making his way up there, but I don't know if he's going to get there in time for a counter gank.
He may mean Nintendo. Nintendo is there. We could see a 2v2 engage. There's the dive. Nintendo jumping onto Crump. There's the ignite, and oh my god, so much damage. But Crump is going to get out of there with a sliver of health. There's the flash from Dominate. Oh, there's the nuke from Skara taking out Zion, but we're not done yet. Dominate with that Permasol on Nintendo. Nintendo burned the axe, he burned the ghost, but he has a sliver of health. He will get out of there. Fantastic, smart communication from Dignitas to let Skarner pick up that kill on Zion and stop that momentum in its tracks.
Team Dynamic continuing to try to pressure that top lane. Dignitas saw it coming. Dominate did quickly make his way up to that top lane. When they tower dived, it was a 2-on-2, and Skarner had just ticked 6, so he was able to get that Requiem off and really turn that around. That's going to give Crumbs some breathing room in the top lane and hold back Zion Spartan's Nidalee assault for the time being. That was a really big play for Dignitas, and they really needed that to stay in this.
Sometimes that timing is all it takes. A lot of action in the bottom lane. Trades going off. Cutie Pie starting to get going. Let's take a closer look at his skill order on this Kog'Maw.
Looking at what he's going with so far, 3 points in Arcane Barrage. That is what every Kog'Maw does. That is his best ability. It extends his range. It gives him % health damage. There's no reason to go anything else on him right away.
Para in the mid, sitting in the side. We actually saw Nijaki doing that, trying to land the binding. Here is the camp once again. Skara being forced to flash out. Nintendo, just the axe, the intimidation of the axe flying in enough to make him flash out, and he is going to be a vulnerable target as Nintendo starts hanging out and dominates jungle.
Nintendo does have to be careful here. He's setting himself up for another counter gank. He's spent so much time ganking despite dominating early. He's allowed I Will Dominate to catch up and experience a little bit, and when he had that failed counter gank turnaround, he did fall a little bit behind Skarner, so he does need to temper his aggression just a little bit. Otherwise, he's going to get himself into that trouble and could potentially overcommit a bit.
And despite that hot start from Dynamic, Dignitas not that far behind, only a little bit less than 1,000 gold at 9 minutes. So Dignitas could very well make that up. Now it's down to 600 gold, but here's an invade.
They're going for a blue buff steal, and this could very well be a 3v3. There's an interesting ward up top by Crumbs that might have seen them come through, and they just take that away uncontested. You can tell that Crumbs is still not comfortable in that lane against Zion Spartan. He's losing a little bit. The fact that they didn't decide to contest that blue means they are a little bit scared of Team Dynamics 3v3 up in there, and they're playing a bit conservatively, trying to avoid falling behind early.
And despite those early kills, Crumbs still doing his best to hold steady in terms of minion kills. 54 minion kills for that Rumble to Zion Spartan 62. So Zion Spartan does have that first blood gold, he does have that assist, but Crumbs slowly clawing his way back into that top lane.
The turnaround gank did wonders for Crumbs, but it's still not all the way there yet. Nidalee is just such a bully, especially with that Phage, auto-attacking from outside of Crumbs' engagement range and just harassing him down. Paradoxical actually cleaning up a blue, so he has the blue advantage on Scar. That's going to work well for him in the minion kill race. And here we see bottom lane. There's a potential 3v3 forming. Both junglers down there looking to fight.
We could see a bait here from Team Dynamic. There is a ward in that bottom brush, so Dignitas is going to see Nintendo sitting there.
Oh, he's going to get him.
There goes Pixel, dominating with the grab. Gets Pixel, but Pixel getting, there's the counter initiative from Patoy, and here comes Scar's new cutie by picking up Pixel, and we are still on the 2v2. Nintendo so low, flash out from Zig, will dominate, be able to pick him up. Zig going down to I will dominate, but there is more action. Para versus Skara. Para is in Skara's jungle trying to prevent him from getting those raids. Skara loves to farm, and the raids are included in that package, but Skara's going to be able to pick up that raid, so a flurry of action in that bottom lane, but I will dominate getting the stick on that ult.
That was just another great counter gank, and Dignitas being ready for exactly where Nintendo X was coming from. They had the Requiem come in from Skara, turning into somewhat of a 3.5 on 3, which let them get the advantage in that fight. And really, it's about Dignitas having a ward in the brush and Dynamic not having a ward in the brush. So they thought they were going into a 3v2, and Dignitas knew they were going into 3.5 versus 3, so to speak. So really, that gave them the edge in that fight. And that's the kind of overcommitting that Team Dynamic gets themselves in trouble with. They have to be careful of this stuff. They need more knowledge of what Dignitas is doing, and all their aggression right now getting turned back around on them.
But while that bottom lane aggression was going down, Zion was doing what Nidalee does best and taking first turret for Team Dynamic. I was just going to say Dignitas, with that engage, took the lead for the first time, but with that turret going down, Team Dynamic turned it back around. A small lead, but a lead nonetheless.
Really, we've seen a lot of skirmishes lately. All the action has been created by Nintendo X, and then I Will Dominate has been there to counter. But the thing we haven't been paying enough attention to is Zion Spartan's continual assault of top lane. He got that early turret. Now it's about how he forces skirmishes and how he converts this game. Because if it ever becomes a 5v5 late game teamfight game, Dignitas is going to win this hands down. Team Dynamic needs to split push. They need to skirmish. They need to split things around. And it's all about that for them.
Looking at that top lane once again, Zion Spartan at 89 minion because he's starting to pull ahead of Crumbs a little bit. He also just picked up that Shen, so we're going to see a Trinity Force in his future more than likely. But something we haven't touched on is the power of the late game Kog'Maw. Cutie Pie is out farming Zig quite handily right now.
Yeah, and this game is going to be in teamfight phase at least. Hopefully Zion Spartan splits around Rumble and they can get that equalizer out of teamfights. But Nintendo X's job is going to be to dive through onto I'm a Cutie Pie. It's actually going to be quite some time before Kog'Maw is able to out-duel Nintendo. So it's really a race against time for Team Dynamic a little bit. Whether or not Nintendo X can solo I'm a Cutie Pie will really dictate who will have the eventual advantage in this game.
Talking a little bit more about that Kog'Maw, Cutie Pie picking up the Zeal. What is the typical standard build for that Kog'Maw? Because we've seen a lot of Graves, we've seen a lot of Corki, and we've seen a lot of Ezreal, but not as much Kog'Maw. Zion getting caught out, but not so much because he's Nidalee. He can just jump out of the way, no problem.
We're actually looking to go around a dragon here, and that Zeal on I'm a Cutie Pie will give him increased mobility because that's what Kog'Maw lacks. So a lot of people go early, but here's Paradoxical looking for a big engage.
There's the engage going on. Paradoxical dropping his ultimate onto 3 members, but there's the counter from Crumbs getting all members of Team Dynamic. Patoy getting the crescendo down, and Para's going to die as a result of it, but Zion's going to pick up Patoy before going down himself to Skara. Skara is in the middle of everyone dealing as much damage as he can, but Cutie Pie's going to pick up Pixel, and that is some serious trouble for Team Dynamic. Here comes the Requiem. Will he be able to get him? No! Nintendo's going to get out of there with a sliver of health, but a well-timed counter-initiate from Crumbs helped Dignitas pick up that fight.
Team Dynamic got a little bit split out there. The Morgana ult was not immediately followed up by the rest of Team Dynamic's damage, and they ended up sitting in Skara's Defile. Also, I'm a Cutie Pie came in from the back in a really strange sense, and no one from Team Dynamic could peel back for him because they'd all already dove in. So he really got free reign on all of Team Dynamic's backline, which is actually an AD carry's dream, not having to deal with tanks but getting free access. We actually have a replay for this fight so we can watch it again. There you see the Morgana ult comes out. They're all actually sitting and zoned out by the equalizer. They get caught in Sona's ult, and really, at this point, no one's there for I'm a Cutie Pie. He picks up Pixel. No one's able to throw damage on into Kog'Maw, and that Bio Arcane Barrage just completely wrecks them. Complete victory for Dignitas in that team fight.
As we jump back to live real quick, there's the Requiem. Once thought Scar was going to be able to pick that kill up from Nintendo, but Nintendo a little bit too tanky, and Scar not quite having that damage. He has the Rod of Ages and the Sorcerer's Shoes, so we're not going to see those massive orbital nukes coming out of that Requiem until
Dynamic
he gets
on top
that
of
depth
a ward.
cap.
This could be another 5v5.
We could see it 5 members of the head, but there's Para with the Black Shield. He's forced to flash out. There's the Equalizer on top of Team Dynamic. Dominates in there, trying to get a slow onto someone, but he is exhausted. Team Dynamic trying to disengage from this. Nintendo is extremely low, but they're going to back out, and Dominate is going to pick up that blue buff.
Super interesting invade there. They were not able to get out of there with the blue. Fortunately, they had enough poke coming through from Zig's missile barrage that they were able to just push Dignitas back and dissuade them from engaging. Even with all that, though, this is troubling for Team Dynamic. They need to be ahead right now. They need Zion Spartan to be split pushing. That 5v5 teamfight at Dragon is not their game. They have to split it up. He needs to continue to push top. That was really what Dignitas wanted, and that's what they're going to continue to try to force.
And Dignitas starting to get a lead, 7 kills to 3. Turrets are dead even at 2-all, but Dignitas getting the gold lead, and Team Dynamics still making the aggressive plays. We talked about them making aggressive plays when they're behind and fighting like they're ahead. Zig being able to Valkyrie out of that situation. But if Dignitas continues to bait out these Team Dynamic fights, they could continue to snowball this lead.
Bit of a lull potentially happening here. I'm a Cutie Pie getting that Phantom Dancer in the bottom lane. That's really all about his increased move speed and mobility. That will transfer into a Phantom Dancer. He can get away with this on Kog'Maw because the percent health per auto attack from Bio Arcane Barrage. He doesn't necessarily need to rush that Infinity Edge. He's one of the few AD carries you can actually have that difference in item builds with. Not a bad choice, though, getting that Phantom Dancer by any means.
Para farming out the mid lane. He's at 148 minion kills to Scar's 129. In terms of the gold, 5,500 to Scar's 5,300. So Scar with that 2-0 and 3 is making sure that he holds even on gold, even if he is a little bit behind, and farming those raids is always going to help.
Just back and forth, farming in the mid lane. Like you say, surprisingly paradoxical, sticking right with Scar here, gets the Abyssal Scepter. That will be fairly big if they can force some type of 4v4 team fight, because Morgana right in the middle of them, getting all that magic resist reduction, no problem.
Chat, we've seen Abyssal Scepter a lot, especially in the mid lane. Morgana in the past has typically rushed the Zhonya's Hourglass. What makes Abyssal so good on her?
Well, especially against this team comp, it's about the defensive ability for a caster who needs to be in the front line. A lot of times Azani's Hourglass is that as I Will Dominate's getting caught out a bit in the jungle, forming some aggression. But the Abyssal Scepter is really all about increased damage, because 40 Magic Pen combined between Sorcerer Shoes and Abyssal Scepter increases your damage a huge amount. It's also for the defensive capabilities, and the magic-heavy team, the Team Dynamic that Dignitas has put together, makes it an even better choice than Zhonya's Hourglass.
Some pings going down, Dominate starting to try and be aggressive, but Team Dynamic doing a great job of making sure that they have all of their jungle entrances covered. Nintendo is the one who's really known for his counter jungling, but I Will Dominate trying to take it to him. And there's Zion sticking in that top lane, trying to put as much pressure on Crumbs as he can. He's at 149 minion kills to Crumbs' 112. Crumbs grabbing the Negatron Cloak. What do you think we're going to see out of that Negatron?
For Crumbs, that Negatron Cloak is most likely potentially turning into another Abyssal Scepter. You can see Rumble has huge amounts of base damage, so he's already having the Sorcerer Shoes and the Hunting Guys to decrease magic resist. The Abyssal Scepter is just going to be even more of that, and it's also going to help him survive against all the magic damage that Morgana is going to throw if they do find team fights.
Zion just chunking Crumbs down. That difference and that Trinity Force starting to show. Zion still has level 1 boots, but he's so mobile that he hasn't really picked it up, just wanted to rush straight for the Trinity Force.
Cougar form and the brush passive for Nidalee is enough to augment her mobility, and he really wanted the power bump that you get from Trinity Force. Even though just with how this game has kind of decelerated a little bit, it was all about Team Dynamic pressing and pressing and pressing, and Dignitas was ready for it. They counter-engaged a lot of these things, and they're very comfortable with where they are right now. Dignitas knows if this game goes 40 minutes, if this game goes 50 minutes, they're going to win. They're going to win in the late game. They have more power, so they're very comfortable just countering Team Dynamic's aggression. And Team Dynamic is searching for something to do right now because all of the slight overcommits they've done previously have gotten them in trouble and gotten them to this point. So really, they're searching for some type of advantage, and Dignitas is doing a great job forcing team fights. Once again, this Dragon is up. They could potentially get another one, and this could be disastrous for Team Dynamic if they don't turn something around.
Dynamic, all 5 of them are there. I will dominate beeline to try and make it Zion a little bit out of position, but Scar is extremely low. There's the flash, and Para able to take out Scar right away. Great engage from Team Dynamic. PewDiePie having to cleanse out, but there's the counter initiate from Patoy. I will dominate, getting the drag on Zion. Zion is extremely low, but will they be able to kite him down? And Crumbs and Zig in a 1v1. Crumbs going to be able to take down Nintendo. All the members of Team Dignitas are so low. Crumbs and Zig at their last length just trying to dodge each other's skill shots, but this is quickly turning into a 2v1. Will Zion be able to catch Crumbs out? He does have those speed boosts, but Crumbs does as well. Will Zion be able to land it? I will dominate on the other hand, getting caught out by Para and Pixel. Para's going to pick up the kill. That's his 2nd kill of the match, but Crumbs turning it around on Zion. So a bloody fight from both ends. Para potentially looking for the dive if he lands the binding, but a juke from PewDiePie is going to turn it around. Para on the defensive. Will PewDiePie be able to take him out? No, he won't. He's going to back out. So back and forth for both teams, and once again TD coming in with the aggression. Skara getting caught out, but Dignitas able to turn it around and pick up a couple of kills.
Everyone flashing red by the end of that fight, getting Skara out of that fight and making his Defile die in an area where he could not sit for damage was all in the favor of Team Dynamic. They were so close to being able to finish things up, and with those fights happening mid at the same time as happening bottom, that's what Team Dynamic wants. That's the skirmishes that Nidalee tries to excel at. So many close fights in that last engagement, and that was crazy to follow.
And how about that 1v1 between Crumbs and Zig? We actually have a replay of that back and forth fight.
Let's see if we can get into this a little bit. We have the initial engagement. It was all about Zion Spartan getting him low and the assassinating Dark Binding from Paradoxical. You can see no one trapped in that Defile, so Scar just goes for the ultimate right away. This is really great positioning by PewDiePie and Patoy. Look at how little health he has, and they essentially just take on 3 of them with just him and I Will Dominate. Meanwhile, Crumbs was just dueling Zig that entire time, and they're just running on top of each other back and forth and back and forth. And actually, with all this engagement, Dignitas is res. We need to head back to live. They're taking on the Dragon, and this is going to be potentially another engagement for them.
Dignitas grabbing Para, not able to land the binding, so they're going to try and back off. Dominate desperately trying to hold on to this Dragon, but Dragon has re-aggroed. And it looks like they're going to back off. Para once again on the offensive. He's in the middle of that fight. And there's the ultimate, but the equalizer drops on top of him. And PewDiePie is on a killing spree. On the other hand, a double kill from PewDiePie, able to pick up Para and Zion Spartan. And there's Skara taking out Pixel. Team Dignitas is in control of this game right now.
It's exactly what they want, is repetitive 5v5 team fights over an objective. That's exactly what Team Dynamic could not get themselves involved with these team fights, but Dignitas sucked them in. They managed to initiate the right team fights, and they were just close enough that Team Dynamic wanted to do it again. But it is not to be, because team fighting against a Cogmob that's getting more and more fed, and Scar's Karthus, which is just getting bigger and bigger, is not in the cards for Team Dynamic. They cannot get stuck into these 5v5 team fights. Dignitas doing a great job forcing that team fight victory, and Dragon are very good for them.
And Patoy picking up an Oracle's Elixir to try and give Dignitas a little bit more map control. He's going to be roaming around, taking out those wards, looking at PewDiePie's Cogmaw. 4-0-2, 169 minion kills to Zig's 128. PewDiePie doing work in these fights.
Once he picks up that Infinity Edge to combo with his Phantom Dancer, it is going to be absurdly amounts, I don't even know the word, it's going to be a lot of trouble for Nintendo Dex, because he cannot dive through when there's that much pain coming out from Scar's wall and PewDiePie, and Skarner reveling in, not able to get the engagement. Now Dignitas, great move, moving the game around the Baron objective, because Team Dynamic is trying to split it up, but if Dignitas keeps enough pressure around Baron, they're going to suck him in. They're not going to let him get split push.
This is the pressure we've seen from Dignitas, trying to force these objectives. The speed boost going out, Skara flashing in, trying to get the wall of pain. There's the equalizer, dropping on top of Pixel. Pixel's extremely low. A couple more hits will do it. PewDiePie is unstoppable. There's that W and a drag. Crumbs is on a rampage, and Dignitas just steamrolling through this Team Dynamic.
That was an Abyssal Scepter that we eventually saw in Crumbs, and that's just letting Scar do more and more damage. Those walls cutting out, totally assassinating them. They cannot escape the engagements from Team Dignitas, and they are rolling through them at this point.
PewDiePie with that damage. He doesn't quite have his Infinity Edge, but Oh my lord. Let's look at his gold. He must have so much at this point. 8,300 to Zig's 5,600. He is almost 3,000 gold ahead in that battle of AD carries.
And now with the inhibitor about to fall, this is going to be even more difficult for Team Dynamic. It is so hard to split push when all of your enemy lanes have 100 more health. Team Dynamic trying a last-ditch initiation on Dignitas here.
Para jumping on top. He has 4 members, and he gets the shutdown on a Cutie Pie and Skarner. Zig is trying to steamroll through. Dominate takes Cutie Pie out, getting the shutdown himself, but he's ignited with a last ignite to go. Yes, Zig gets a double kill and a 2v1 Patoy, the last standing member of Dignitas. There is an ace for TD.
And
so
what a last-ditch effort here by Team Dynamic, Jaws, because they have 4 members alive. Dignitas just got aced, so this is a Baron if they want it. They're a little bit low. They're going to be fighting against the NPC here. This could actually be a close fight for them. They have to take it down. With the Baron buff, they could potentially have enough strength to fight up against Dignitas, and this is exactly what they need. Dignitas stuck around a little bit too long. This Baron chunking down a bit. Will they be able to get it, Josh?
Zig actually used his ignite on Baron. Baron could be the spoiler, the 6th member of Team Dignitas, but no, he will not be. Team Dynamic taking out Baron Nashor. They are still behind a little bit more than 2,000 gold, but they are showing that with the right engage, they are still in this game 1.
Dignitas wanted to get that inhibitor so bad because they knew once they had that, split pushing was going to be extremely difficult for Team Dynamic. Paradoxical jumped on that opportunity of Dignitas staying too long and got a great Morgana ult onto the rest of the team. He now has that Zhonya's Hourglass, so those ultimates will be more and more potent in team fights. Only when they have the Baron buff can Team Dynamic still fight Dignitas head for head. Even with that, it's still going to be difficult for them just because of Kog'Maw, Karthus, and all the farm coming down on the Dignitas.
And the inhibitor being down for Dignitas, they were able to take that out. So despite Baron buff for Team Dynamic, they're going to have that middle lane pushing down relentlessly onto them. We are going to do a quick replay for this ace.
Here we have it coming in. It was actually just such a great initiation. He lands it on 4, actually gets the stun on 4, which you almost never see. They then follow it up with just a great chase. I will dominate, not able to escape Zig. The last missile comes in and hits him over the wall, and then there's no escaping Nintendo X's Olaf, landing every single axe, and they clear him up with the absolute 0. From there it was Baron, and now we're here.
Let's see what these players are going to be able to do with this Baron buff. Team Dynamic going to have to push it down. They want to take back control of this mid lane with the inhibitor, and Team Dignitas grouping up and trying to push down this top, so we could see another engage in this top lane. Zion Spartan is there. He's known for getting extremely aggressive. He may get caught up. They have a lot of speed boost with that. Shirelli is giving them the extra speed boost in the items, as well as I Will Dominate, being able to skitter around and get that ultimate.
Still confident, even though Team Dynamic has the Baron buff. They're going to try to initiate them right here.
There's the Shirelli's going in, intended Shirelli's, and he is speed boost as well. Scar's trying to land some lay waste, but right now it seems to be a poke fest, and poke and Cutie Pie. Wow, look at those pokes. Cutie Pie taking out Nintendo with those, that Bio Arcane Barrage and those auto attacks. And here comes Dignitas. They have the speed boost. The slow is down onto Zig, but Team Dynamic is going to back off. And despite that incredible ace and the Baron, Dignitas showing that they are still able to win these fights.
Nintendo Dex not nearly enough armor to deal with I'm a Cutie Pie's 7-1 Infinity Edge Phantom Dancer Kog'Maw. Completely obliterated by that Bio Arcane Barrage, and despite having Baron, Team Dynamic completely on their heels, when Nintendo reses, if they want to get a fight, which they somewhat have to, otherwise they will eventually get rolled over by Dignitas, they have to go in together. The fights they win are when Paradoxical gets the ultimate on the entire group. He's the one who has to be leading. Nintendo Dex needs to follow in after that, because if he goes in alone, if he goes in first, I'm a Cutie Pie wrecks it.
And Dignitas has been doing such a great job of slowing down one member of Team Dynamic and just picking them off. Those Bio Arcane Barrage auto attacks are hitting so hard, and there's another dragon for Team Dignitas. They are working their way into a lead. 43,900 gold to Team Dynamics 44,000 gold to Team Dynamics 39,700 gold, 17 kills to 10, 6 turrets to 2. And that inhibitor still.
Dignitas has really taken that ace and the giving up Baron to Team Dynamic in complete stride. They did not let it phase them. They did not even let it change their playstyle. They're still all about grouping up as 5. And here's Team Dynamic once again, somewhat of a last-ditch effort. Dignitas is not going to let this happen.
Dignitas on the run, Crumbs dropping the equalizer, and Dignitas is going to turn on them. Para's in the middle, but Patoy getting the ultimate only onto Nintendo, but it does not matter. Skara getting Paradoxical despite that initiate pixel, trying to tank 5 members, but it'll be a double kill for Skara, and Dignitas is going to try and steamroll down this bottom lane. Zion Spartan taking pot shots with those Nidalee spears, but he won't be able to do much against a still very healthy Dignitas lineup. PewDiePie popping the Bio Arcane Barrage, and that tower is going down in a hurry. The slow going down onto Zion. Zion is trying to stick around and make something happen, but with him and Zig and Nintendo being the only people alive, they could be in trouble. Nintendo is there dropping those axes, but they are not hitting as hard as they want to. Dominate is low. PewDiePie is a little bit out of position. The Ignite is down, but he cleanses to make sure he doesn't get, and Skara is on a killing spree.
He's going to take him out.
And Zion takes out PewDiePie, but not before Skara gets a double kill with the orbital cannon, and that is going to be another inhibitor. Bottom lane, they're going to re-kill middle inhibitor, and they could very well push in for the win. They're just instead going to opt to back out. Shirelli's being popped. They get that speed boost. They're going to not rotate top. They're just going to back off.
They remember what happened last time they stuck around for a little bit too long. They're playing it really safe. They most likely could have went in to save that, but they had a whole heap of gold. They're going back to buy even more items. They've shown this game in the last 15 minutes, if they stick together, they'll win every fight. That's what they know. They're all going back together. They're all going to push together, and they're going to try to get that last tower or just go straight for the Nexus, because Team Dynamic is completely contained here, and try as Zion Spartan might to try to flank around and create skirmishes, Dignitas is just not letting it happen.
When you have a 7-2-11 Skara who has 226 minion kills, a Rabadon's Death Cap, a Void Staff, and a Rod of Ages, you do not want to fight that. Let's take a look at the replay at that last fight.
So we actually saw them just push in. They get the Kog'Maw Void Ooze enough to slow them down and just trash them with the rest of their damage. Scar's ult comes in. It actually got Zig as he was running back towards the Nexus. And from there, they could just walk in and clean up, because 3 kills when they still had 4 members alive was just free inhibitors. And now, on live, they're pushing up towards top, just getting rid of that 3rd one. There's no way Team Dynamic can force skirmish at this point. So it's really just about Dignitas executing these final team fights and taking home the win.
Team Dynamic could make a last stand here, and that is what they're going to have to do. Binding lands on Dominate. Skara taking a spear to the face, but for the most part, Dignitas not worried that much about this harass. They're continuing to push, and if PewDiePie gets his claws on one member of Team Dynamic, it is going to be lights out for this game 1. Zion Spartan has his Trinity Force as well as his Guardian Angel, so he is trying to deal as much damage as he can, but he's 3-6. He did not get going the way that he wanted to. He got those early kills, but then he got behind.
He really got forced into team fighting by Team Dignitas. Nidalee doesn't excel in those. They need to be 1-on-1s. They need to be 3-on-3s. Who got crushed down by the AoE damage of Scar and PewDiePie. And they're taking this finish so slow, they're actually falling back to pick up the Baron buff. They want to make certain that they're stronger in this upcoming team fights. It's really just the slow play here. They've countered Team Dynamic's aggression so long. They're just going to take this one home slow and steady.
There's going to be that 2nd Baron, this time going to Team Dynamic. Speaking of Zion Spartan, all credit to his lane opponent Crumbs for not panicking after that early aggression. He's now 5-2-12. His equalizers have been spot on this game 1. He has a death cap as well. So we typically see Spell Vamp to get that life gain back, but Crumbs says, nope, I'm going to go all out aggression.
And they're leading off with the Karthus ult just to shove them back. There's so many super minions pushing through the other lanes that Team Dynamic has no chance of defending here at the inhibitor. And once all 3 waves hit the double Nexus towers, it's really going to be Team Dynamics. Half of their job is just going to be keeping their towers alive, let alone having to deal with 5 Baron buffed Dignitas members with max items.
And 3 lanes with those super minions, and those super minions are pushing in, tanking those turret hits. There's the engage flash in from Paradoxical. The Team Dignitas completely splits. Skara and Dominate turning and destroying Para. Zig in a 1v1 against Patoy. Ignite going down on a Nintendo. PewDiePie meanwhile takes out Pixel, and Skara continuing to roll through. Him and PewDiePie are in complete control of this fight. That's a double kill each, and that is game 1 to Team Dignitas.
Great play by Dignitas throughout most of that game. They had the shaky start, but then completely countered Team Dynamic's aggression throughout the rest of the game. They stuck to the plan. They got themselves on champions they were comfortable with, and they just dealt with Team Dynamics.